Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. Since recently I am preparing for a very important tournament, I won't be able to make or follow the footsteps of those recent top events. I won't be able to do recaps of those games that are played in the top events. So I'm pre-recording this whole series, and in this series, I'm going to give comments, also like recaps on games and positions where I learned at chess school. They're all carefully chosen by my coach, who is an international master, very strong, a very nice teacher, and he carefully taught all of these things to us, the strategies, the openings, the middle games, the end games, and basically, yeah, we can learn a lot of things. And I want to share all of these things with you guys, and I think it is also an excellent way for me to review the things that I have learned at school. Alright, so today we'll be taking a look at a game played in the 2011 World Cup in the men's section. And white is Leinier Dominguez Perez, and black is Judit Polgar. You might be wondering, this is the men's section, so why Judit Polgar is playing in the men's section? Well, actually at that stage, or at that point, she is having a really high rating, and she has has the opportunity to participate in the men's section, and so she did in this tournament. And actually during that stage, it was like a knockout format. If you lose, then you're just knocked out of this whole tournament, and if you win, you'll go into the next stage. And this was the first game between Leinier Dominguez Perez against Judit Polgar, and the opening is actually very interesting. And let's jump in and see. Actually, there were, if I'm not mistaken, the format of this whole tournament, there are first two classical games played by both sides play white and then black. And then if you have the result equal, you go to the rapid game, and if you have that equal, you go into the blitz game, and then the blitz game will definitely define out who is the winner and who will go into the next stage. And at that point, these two players, they actually played 8 games in total, which meant that they went to the very last blitz stage. And at that point, Judit Polgar actually won the whole result, and then she passed into the next stage. All right. But today let's take a look at this first game and see how it went. E4 was played by Dominguez, and Judit played C4. Not C4, what am I saying? C5. Knight F3, Knight C6, and D4 takes, and here, Queen B6. This is a move this is a very sided line, I'm definitely sure. This is a very sided line that we don't see every day. And actually, very interestingly, is that Judit, she played this line in the first game, and she also played this in the 8th game, the last game, against Dominguez. And she played this exact same opening. Queen B6. I guess this is just her home preparation before this whole tournament. And Queen B6 is somehow a very sided line, but it's playable at least. And she wanted to confuse or surprise her opponent, because all of her opponents are really strong men players. And let's see how Dominguez. Of course, Dominguez, he knows how to play, but I think he doesn't have any deep analysis. At least not as deep as Judith's analysis of this whole opening. Queen B6 was played, and here Knight B3, very logical, because you are attacking the D4 knight as well as putting pressure on the B2 pawn. You just go back with Knight B3 to correct everything, and after Knight F6, attacking the E4 pawn, Knight C3 was played, and here E6. Now, Dominguez actually played a move that is not so accurate. He played Bishop G5, which is a good move, but not the best. The best move here is actually to go A3 to prevent Bishop B4, which is a very annoying pin. But Bishop G5 is also fine. And in the game, Judit, instead of playing Bishop B4, which is the best move, because white hasn't played A3, then giving black the opportunity to pin the knight and the king, and Bishop B4 is actually a pretty nice move here, and it's actually giving white some like challenges here. But however, in the game, Judit instead played a6, which is a somehow dubious move. Even though here it is like an like the chess.com says that like gives it a thumbs up. But I think this move is somehow like wasting a tempo. Because here you should have just gone bishop e7 to develop your own pieces instead of wasting your moves on a pawn move. And a6 in the game after a few moves turned out to be a not so accurate move. Because bishop e7 would have been much more necessary. Like, developing your own pieces, getting your king to safety is always something that is really necessary to do. So bishop e7 would have been like the best move. But instead, a6 was played, which is not bad, but not as good as bishop e7. Queen f3 was played. Now, actually, this was the first round of the game between Dominguez and Judit. And here Dominguez played queen f3, and like in their last round, if you still remember, I said that Judit played this exact same opening with queen b6. And here, instead of going queen f3 in the 8th round, in that game, Dominguez played queen d2 instead of queen f3. And he actually, I think he won that game, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, but in this game, he played queen f3, which he lost. So maybe he thought that queen f3 was not a good option, or at least really like in Black's comfort zone, and he wanted to play something different, and he played queen d2 instead. But it turned out that queen f3 is actually just better than queen d2. But let's see what happened in the game. Queen f3 was played, very logical, attacking the f6 knight, and bishop e7, developing the bishop. Queen g3. But now, like, even though queen f3, queen d3 is something that happens a lot, especially in the Tamenov opening, but at that point, Black's queen is on c7, and you're offering a queen trade on g3. At that point, the queen is on c7, and you're offering a queen trade. But at this point, you go queen g3. There's no queen trade offers. The only thing that you're doing is to somehow put a little bit of pressure on like the g file, the g7 pawn, that is. But still, like, all of this idea that Dominguez is coming up with is fine. And in the game, here, Judit played d6, and long castle was played short castle. Now, short castle is actually a bit of a mistake, kind of. What Judit should have played is actually just to go back with the queen to queen c7, and this will just transfer into the Tamenov opening. Everything is just very normal, I think. You can also just develop your own pieces with bishop d7. But I guess in the game, Judit just really wants to get her king to safety, and she played short castle. But now you see that white has gone long castle and black has gone short castle. This meant that different side castling, which means that both sides are going to attack on different sides. White is definitely going to start attacking on the king side, and black is going to attack on the queen side. Now it's actually very clear that this a6 move is just pure wasting, like wasting a tempo, because if your pawn is on a7 there, you can now just go a5, immediately push the pawns. And another main reason is that short castle is not good is that because white now has h4, start the attack on the king side immediately, and it's definitely clear that white's attack is much faster than black's attack on the queen side. But unfortunately, in the game, king b1 was played, which is not as good as h4, but still a playable move. And in the game, rook d8 was played, and then f4. Dominguez is launching the attack on the king side immediately, while you can see that Judit is still not doing anything on the queen side. Here she played queen t7, finally preparing for b5, but it is just a little bit too slow. In the game, bishop d3 was played. Everything is like well planned by Dominguez. F4's follow-up plan is to go bishop d3, that is, and prepare for e5 ideas. Bishop d3 and b5, but now actually like black is just way too slow. Because here white has this excellent move with queen h4. What is this move? Threatening to go e5 and like threatening mate on h7 actually. Because if you go e5, and also like you can just e5 and after take, you take on f6 and then you prepare for queen h7. So everything is actually very messy here. And for black, it's actually just forcing black to go h6 here. But after h6, after h6, there's now just bishop takes h6, a brilliant found. Actually, This is all well calculated, because if you go queen h4, your idea is definitely to go bishop h6. You're not going to go bishop f6, because after bishop f6, you're just giving black the bishop here, and also you have to go back with the queen. But now there's simply no attack on the queen side, on the king side, that is. That is why bishop h6 is somehow like a forced idea as well. And after g takes h6, also forced, queen h6 was played, and here Judit played this mistake here. It looks very normal, but this is a mistake, and the only move here to maintain or at least decrease white's advantage is to go b4. I mean, b4, white is still much better, but this is the only way to, at least white is only +1 here. But if you play other moves for black, if you play other moves if you just play any other moves, it is already +2 and +3, something like that. b4 is the only move here that is the best. 92, and after knight g4, queen h3, I think, and after f5 and takes. This is not that easy to spot, because there's still bishop c4 check and king g7. Everything is really messy, but I mean, if the engine was playing this position, engine would say, okay, I'm just gonna defend and play all the best moves. I'm not under any pressure, basically. But in human eyes, this position just looks really worse for black, because the king is just way too open to white's pieces. Alright. But it turns out that after this b4 idea here, black is completely fine, but this is just way too hard to spot for a human. And in the game, knight e8 was played, which is a mistake, because there's now e5, and after f5, this is all forced. And here, I want you guys to think. I'll give you two options, either to take bishop f5 or go queen g6. Bishop f5, if e takes f5, there's knight d5, of course. Queen g6 is very logical, just to check your opponent's king. So I'll give you two options here, bishop f5 or queen g6. You have to choose between one of them. In the game, Dominguez played the wrong move, and it led to disaster. I mean, here, if you had played the correct move, he would be +2 already. But in the game, he played bishop takes f5, which is a mistake. And after this move, immediately black is having the initiative, and black is now better. You see that before it was already +2 for white. After this queen g6 move, queen g6 check, let's say king f8, but there's now just h4 or g4 ideas coming up. And if you go king h8, there's still g4 ideas coming up, and it's already +2. Can you just imagine? But if you play this bishop f5 move, which also seems like it's winning, it's already better for black. The change is really clear. After bishop f5, e takes f5, that is all forced, and knight d5. Okay, it may seem that white is having a lot of counterplay here, but it turns out Dominguez just simply missed this move, bishop f8. If black had played something else like queen e7 just to run away with the queen, yes, maybe white is still able to create some chances on the king side. It's actually already equalized position, but here black has to play this only move, bishop f8, and after rook g3 check to block with bishop g7, and everything is actually well defended by black. Everything is fine here, and probably white just needs to go for the draw after knight f6, king f8, knight h7, just to keep checking, and this should be a draw. There's also no other options for black but to repeat with the king moving back and forth. But I think Dominguez here, he just didn't play it. He miscalculated and didn't see this bishop f8 move. And in the game, Judit played this move, and already she is much better here. Everything is now forced, exchanging the queens off, knight takes a8, bishop takes f4, and e takes d6, bishop takes d6. Reaching this crucial position of the game, now I want you guys to think, to evaluate the position. Of course, by looking at the eval bar, it's clear that black is slightly better, but what are both sides' idea? Black is of course better because black has two bishops versus a rook, and the bishop pair is always something that a side is longing for, especially in an open position. And in this endgame, it is just perfect for these two bishops to coordinate with each other. First of all, you see that white is up one pawn, or not up 2 pawns, but these 2 pawns, like those, like the pawns that he is up are like are on different sides of the board, and if they were like connected past pawns, maybe white will still have bigger drawing chances, but unfortunately they're on different sides of the board. And now you see that white has 2 knights. If these were 2 bishops, I think white will be completely fine, even playing for the win. But unfortunately, there are 2 knights, and now right now is also not that easy to go out. Okay, but knight b6, knight d5 is of course possible, but what happens after you get your knight out? White's idea is basically to get rid of one of black's bishops, because if you just like keep black to maintain the bishops on the board, then the bishop here is just way too strong. White needs to find a way to like exchange at least one of the bishops. And in the game, Dominguez here played knight b6, and after bishop e6, knight d5. And of course, for black, she is not going to take on d5, because after rook d5, now with only one bishop left on the board, like the pawns are all a bit weak, and I think white is going to be better here. But in the game, king f7 was played by Judit. Actually, in this rest of the endgame, she is just playing all of the best moves. Knight e3 was played, and knight f6. And here g3 was played, but this allowed like black to go knight g4. Like g3's idea is trying to free the rook, but you see that at after g3, there's just knight g4 here, and after takes, this pawn, h pawn is completely fixed. And here, Dominguez played knight d4. This is a dubious move, because again, I've said that white needs to trade off a pair of minor pieces, and that pair of minor pieces needs to be white's knight and one of black's bishops. If you're exchanging the knight for the knight, this is just something that you should not allow, because like letting black keep the bishop pair on the board is just something that is just way too dangerous for white. But in the game, knight d4 was played, and after takes, Judit immediately took on d4, and here she had the bishop pair, and everything is in her own control. I mean, still, the position is not completely winning. And here, Judit, she played bishop c7. Now, again, I want you guys to think. 2 options again. Rook f1 to keep the rook on the board, or rook d8 to trade off a pair of rooks. In the game, Dominguez played the better move. I mean, both options are okay. You can definitely play rook d8, and after bishop d8, a rook versus 2, like the bishop here. The position is still draw with accurate play, but it's not that easy to play that accurately. White's main idea is to go to the queen's end and gobble up the pawns before black gobbles up the kingside pawns. And here, but in the game, rook f1 check was played. Dominguez decided to keep the game more complicated and keep more pieces on the board. King e7 and rook e4. Now for the rest of the game, we're just going to take a look at what happens real quick, because everything is just happening really fast. a4 and takes. Everything is just normal here. And yeah, let's go through all of these things real quick. Check, king c6, b3. Now you see that you have to notice that this diagonal is now open, and the king is actually facing some mating ideas. Like, there are some mating ideas in black's mind, because there's always bishop e5 to go for mate. Something like this will definitely happen, so white does need to be careful of that. And in the game, this happened, and here a mistake was played by Dominguez, and this is kind of like the losing move. I mean, here, this move is actually just a significant difference than the best move. The best move here is to go rook e2. Defending the c2 pawn and bishop f3, let's say you just go rook e7, you just move your rook back and forth on the e file. But the only move that is not playable here, I mean, you can play anything on the e file, rook e7, rook e8, rook e2, but the only move that you cannot play here is to go rook e1, and this was played in the game because it now allowed black's bishop to go to bishop d2, and after rook d1, black's bishop is now completely solid on c3, and this means that the rook can no longer move away from the first rank because there's always rook g1, rook a1 mate. Now this is just complete disaster, and for the rest of the game, everything is just crumbling for white, and yeah. Still, the game had gone for like a couple of like many moves actually. This is right now move 49, and can you guess this game ended? Like this game continued and stopped at like in total there's like 112 moves played by both sides. This is just amazing. And it's a very long game, so we'll go through all of these things really quickly. Like Judit is just playing a few back and forth moves. I mean, winning this game is not easy, but once you get the idea, it's just very easy. And after White's a few mistakes and inaccuracies, White's pieces are getting more and more passive, and immediately the rook is kind of trapped. Okay, bishop e3 is not the best move because it allows rook e7. But here, if you just play back with king f2, for example, everything is just crumbling for White. But after bishop e3, actually giving White some drawing chances here after rook e7. But yeah, I mean, still, this is kind of like still losing, I think, for White. Okay, things happen really fast. And actually here, okay, this is just, yeah, completely winning. I mean, it's a really long game, so I cannot show you guys, like I cannot show you guys specifically, or I cannot comment on each of the moves because that will take too many time. This is still move 78, and we still have about 50 moves, okay, or maybe like 40 moves to go. And here rook g4 was played and rook b3. All right, now we're reaching this position where it is rook and bishop versus rook, a very uncommon endgame, but very hard endgame to like win here for Black. But I think Judit knows how to win here, and everything is just happening really fast. She knows how to play, and immediately she won after like a couple of moves. Okay, first of all, a few checks, and immediately here she after here rook b6, king a1, and rook g6 here. Dominguez resigned the game because rook g1 is unstoppable. And it's just mate coming up very soon. It's a very long game, 112 moves, and yeah, it's just a very long game, well played by both sides, especially Judit. In the endgame part, she did not make any huge mistakes. Okay, maybe she made some inaccuracies or missed some opportunities, but still excellent chess, and she knows how to win this very complicated endgame. As for Dominguez, it already started to crumble after he played this bishop f5 move, and in the endgame, Judit just played way too well and immediately outplayed Dominguez. This game was really nice game, and I think it can teach us a lot of things. The opening, the queen b6 move, a dubious choice, but sometimes in tournaments you can also sometimes in tournaments you're not afraid of main lines, but you're afraid of sidelines. That's what they say. Alright, I hope you guys learned a lot of things from this really long game, the openings, the end games, and thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!